It's the storage of our lives. This was the very witty remark by a good friend when we were once again discussing the pros and cons of putting stuff into storage and having a storage unit. And considering that I am waist deep in emptying my storage unit, I thought it would be an opportune time to share the lessons I and others have learned along our storage journey. Join me as I chat about the 5 cons to having a storage unit as well as the 5 pros. I've taken a quick swim, I'll be going back, taking a shower, and then we'll chat about this. I'm the Forest Fairy. Welcome to my corner of the woods where I'm rebuilding, revamping, redesigning a magical life and hopefully inspire you to gather your own fairy dust. Hello everybody, I hope you're having an excellent week. Clouds and coolness are rolling in today, but all sorts of small birds such as sunbirds are chattering away in my fever trees. As you heard, today's chat is all about storage units and my take on that famous Shakespeare quote, to store or not to store. That is the question. And I'm hoping that the answer, or rather the lessons that I and others have learned, will be useful if you're planning to store or currently storing. Many people, and it seems to be more mature women, but maybe that's just my perception, are changing their lives and in the process either downscaling or choosing a nomadic lifestyle. But many are not quite ready to let it all go, and some would like to have their stuff when they do decide to go back to their base. So let's start with the cons. The cost of a storage unit can add up over time to a significant expense, especially if you intend to store for a short term and it extends to a medium or worse, a long term. I drew the line on the storage unit when I sat down and did the sums. I was horrified. The cost of storing my oldish appliances and furniture could have been used to buy new ones. The story I like to tell is about my fridge-freezer combo. You know, when you think back to your first crush at school, they had this glow about them, and then years later you see them and it's sometimes a huge shock. My fridge was the same. I remember it as big with lots of space and drawers of hard plastic that didn't break, and I couldn't wait to haul it out of storage. I had forgotten that I had bought it exactly 42 years ago, and that it wasn't so white anymore, and that it was very big and very noisy. So selling and replacing rather than storing is an important sum to do. There are 2 types of damage that can occur when your stuff is in storage. The first is obvious. Your furniture and appliances sometimes get dented and scratched as they are moved around to and from the unit, and even is in the unit as you move stuff to find other stuff. The second type is damage that occurs to the unit, such as flooding or fire. A few years ago, we experienced heavy rains and a unit close to mine, luckily not mine, was flooded, and they lost a lot of paperwork and books that had been in boxes on the floor. So factors such as location, in other words, how far you are from your unit, restricted operating hours, and even how you pack your unit determine how convenient it is to access or retrieve items. My unit is luckily just a few kilometers from my home, and I can visit it anytime. However, before the flood, it was quite neat and I could reasonably easily access boxes for stuff. Unfortunately, after the flood, a lot was just pushed in and I didn't move all the stuff back into the cottage. With the result, the access to the stuff became impossible. My unit is so close and I have a comprehensive list of all that is in the boxes, so I can easily retrieve items. But as a friend mentioned, her location made accessing impossible, which often led to double or repeat purchasing of necessities. To add to this, some items become the forgotten ones. You forget you have them, out of sight, out of mind, and then you buy more stuff. There is also the mess with your mind aspect. You know you need to sort your unit, but it seems such an insurmountable task that you end up procrastinating, sometimes for months and even years. And we know, as I mentioned in the conversation, I'm minimizing my possessions, that getting rid of stuff you don't want or need is very liberating. And now the pros. There are definitely some pros to having stuff in storage, and the key one is the flexibility that it provides. Storing your stuff is a good temporary, note I say temporary, solution in some situations. If you're building or revamping a house, if you're moving or downsizing, or you're doing some long-term traveling. Much like the previous point, a storage unit also gives you time and freedom between homes if you're in a transitional phase, as it allows you to test locations without having to cart the whole lot with you all the time or selling everything. In contrast to Barry Manilow's song, I Can't Live Without You, you may just find that there is stuff that you can live without. I discovered a few things. I found that my taste had changed, so some stuff had to go. That I really didn't need piles of single bed sheets, 2 sets were fine. That having curly hair meant that I wasn't ever going to use the 3 sets of curlers that I had, inherited by the way, and that the crates of material offcuts needed to go to a sewing center. There is also a huge benefit to having your storage unit in a facility that has excellent security and maybe even some climate control if you want to store, say, valuables and paintings and antiques. I definitely don't have so many that I would need a storage unit, however. Having a storage unit allows you to let go slowly, and here I'm speaking from experience. I moved back to the city into a small place soon after my husband passed and was required to store stuff. Yes, I've done it before. In fact, I then needed 2 storage units. At that time, the son was working overseas and the daughter was half a day away. And every time they were in town, so to speak, which was about every 6 months, I would pack a picnic basket and off we'd go to the storage to scrounge through the units. It became a standing family joke, but it gave us all time to process the letting go of many of the items. Now it has come to my notice that the storage unit is being referred to as the Familiestoer, which translates into the family barn. So there you have it, the 5 pros and the 5 cons of putting your stuff in storage. My advice is to look hard and long at the stuff, decide how long you're prepared to store it, and to do the math. Do the math. Wishing you a wonderful weekend and sprinklings of fairy dust as we continue to redesign a magical life. Until next time, goodbye.